Hello, my name is Robert Elsenpeter. I'm a contributing writer to Dental Lab Products magazine, and today we're joined by Bennett Napier, Executive Director of the National Association of Dental Laboratories. Today we're going to talk about the sort of current state of the dental lab industry, and the NADL recently concluded a couple of surveys about dental laboratories. First, being an overall look at the business side of the industry, and the other a material and equipment survey. So we wanted to talk to Mr. Napier a little bit about where the industry is at right now.
Great, thank you for having me today. I appreciate the opportunity. I could just give some kind of high-level salient points first before I get into some of the depth of the two surveys. And just from a general standpoint, things we would share that kind of correlate to the U.S. Department of Labor. We look at our market research and the U.S. Department of Labor Bureau of Labor Statistics data, and we believe we're just under about 8,700 domestic dental laboratories in the U.S., which is quite a significant decline from our heyday. But we do believe that the what we call the significant consolidation of the industry has somewhat plateaued during the last few years, and we believe it'll be another 3 to 5 years from now, and we'll see another major consolidation in about 2019 or so. But for the next 2 to 3, we think there'll be some stability in the marketplace, except for what we call some smaller acquisitions that take place in the market. Some things we can share on the positive side, are that even though the number of laboratories has declined in terms of the number of physical players, what we can share is actually the number of technician employees is actually going up slightly, and also correspondingly for dental technicians, wages are going up at around 4% compared to their pay scale, if you will, last year. So that's an interesting dynamic to see the supply and demand and its outcomes on wages and employment.
Are the sizes of dental labs changing? Is the overall what you're seeing? Are we seeing more large dental labs, smaller dental labs, or are those numbers holding pretty steady?
I think what we're seeing is, to say some extent, was predicted, and it's just interesting to see how it's kind of playing out. But the larger getting larger. There are still small laboratories in the market, and there will always be a place for smaller laboratories in the market. What I would call a boutique type business model. But if I look at it from a standpoint of the average size dental lab, where we used to define that, was around 3.5 people. Today's average size dental lab, not the median, but the average, is about 12.5 employees. So the spectrums, if we look at it, the middle labs, the mid-sized labs, are getting squeezed, and they're having to make a determination. Do they go smaller, or do they go bigger, or do they go home? And so if I look at it strictly on the large lab side, they're definitely getting larger as they acquire more market share industry, and so I think that the issue is how labs make a determination where they want to fit in the spectrum.
Are you seeing anything on the material side? Are there any big changes in terms of the materials and equipment the labs are using, or is that sort of staying steady?
Well, there's two aspects to the material issues. To some extent, I mean, clearly in the last 3 to 4 years, if we look at our trends of our research, the shift to all ceramic, if you will, has been just a major shift in terms of utilization compared to the traditional alloy market. The thing that comes into play with that transition, however, is it affects the issues in terms of what I call the economics. And what I mean by that is the average selling price that a lab can sell a product now based on the types of materials that they're using is obviously much less than you would see, in a PFM or a traditional alloy type restoration. And so for a laboratory, what that means is, on the one hand, they may be able to produce the restoration more inexpensively and efficiently using certain types of new materials on the market, but they're selling it based on market dynamics for a lower price than what they're used to. And so they pick up savings on one side, but they effectively, in some cases, depending on their price points for their niche of their clients, they may have to make 2 units compared to 1 of what they were making in the past just to keep up with their gross sales revenue projections and outcomes.
Are you seeing more, less, or any change really in the amount of people who are using CAD/CAM versus those PFM designs? Is that something that's really growing? Do you see that picking up, or is that about the same as it was?
If I look at just general technology utilization, CAD/CAM being the major component, and I would say CAD being in the design and the milling being the CAM side. I mean, the way our NADL looks at the data, to some extent we call it the have and have-nots. And what we mean by that is the marketplace has made a choice. Those people that have made the transition or made a decision to go digital are all in, and they've gone heavily invested in capital, time, and labor to make those transitions. And then you have another segment of the market, for whatever reason, whatever their motivation is, that's up to them, but they've made a decision not to go that route, and in some cases not utilize digital in any capacity, even including outsourcing to people that have the digital technology that they could partner with. So it's very interesting to see long term who's going to be right. I mean, clearly it appears that digital is here to stay, and the ROI, if you will, that comes with digital makes sense for the long term. But it's very interesting to see a segment of the market basically not go down that path in any way, shape, or form. But those who have, we see marked increases in utilization of not only using multiple systems, but now multiple brands, which again creates a very interesting dynamic within the laboratory setting, having to train workforce needs on multiple platforms. And so again, the issue comes into play, picking the right partner in terms of your technology, both material and equipment utilization, making the right decisions on who works for your business model in the best manner possible.
Okay. Generally speaking, and this is looking both at the business side and the materials and equipment side, was 2014 a particularly good year for dental labs? Is it a little lull once again, or is it just about?
Yeah, if we look at it from a sales revenue standpoint, I mean, I think unfortunately, flat was good. For the most part, if I look at it from the total market outcomes. However, what we can certainly say is, depending on where people are in their transition, with different business models, and I say either business models or niches in terms of product segmentation, there are clearly laboratories out there that are making fairly good gross revenue and in many cases good net profit. But a lot of that's been driven by the choices they've made and where they were on the adoption of new materials and technology in terms of getting a head start, if you will, And it's a, I think that is something to be recognized, is there are labs out there doing well. But if we look across the board, the preponderance of labs, I hate to say it in this term, are trying to catch up. And unfortunately for some people, it seems could be too late for some. However, I wouldn't discourage anyone, from looking at the options that are available and then figure out which ones are best for them to move forward.
Based on the results of both surveys, are there any predictions or extrapolations that you can make for 2015? Anything you can look at and say, here's where dental labs need to be focusing a little bit of energy on this year?
Yeah, if we look at it just from a macro standpoint, I mean, certainly if somebody hasn't gotten into the scanner side of things, I mean, that's kind of a clear prevailing thing to do for most laboratories. And then, certainly depending on their capitalization and their business needs, looking at milling, obviously, as that should be in-house or outsourced. And I think you see, digital impression systems and printers kind of, like a better term, lagging behind, just because although they're not, quite frankly, exactly new to the market, they are new in terms of widespread utilization in the lab side. And so I think, that's where I would say labs can have some patience, if they will, relative to integrating those two elements. Again, depending on what their niche is. Others, it's going to make clear prevailing sense to do that and do it now. But I'd say for preponderance of labs, they can probably work with other partners that have that technology before they utilize it and bring it in-house. But that's important, from that standpoint when they make those decisions. I would say from a general standpoint, if we look at it, I think based on what our two reports indicate, is not in all cases, but in many cases, those labs that have transitioned to a digital type of process, if you will, do seem to be generating higher gross sales, higher profit. And I think a lot of that comes from their ability to have a broader array of products that they can offer to the dental client marketplace, which gives them a differentiator, if you will, from a small cadre. And again, it's a generalization, but I'd say if you're looking at labs that are trying to broaden out beyond a local dental client pool, that's where these types of things come into play real significantly.
Okay. Well, sir, those are all the questions that I had today. Was there anything you'd like to add that I didn't think to bring up? Anything that we just didn't touch on?
No, we just appreciate you covering these types of issues in the market, and it's quite important for people to just know what their options are and know the different players that they can get resource information from to make informed decisions. So we're just grateful for the opportunity today.
Great. Thanks very much, sir. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.